Han Solo. I'm captain of the Millennium Falcon. Chewie here tells me you're looking for passage to the Alderaan system.
Yes, indeed. If it's a fast ship.
Fast ship? You've never heard of the Millennium Falcon?
Should I have?
It's a ship that made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs. I've outrun Imperial starships. Not the local bulk cruisers, mind you. I'm talking about the big Corellian ships now. She's fast enough for you, old man. What's the cargo?
Only passengers. Myself, the boy, 2 droids, and no questions asked.
What is it, some kind of local trouble?
Let's just say we'd like to avoid any Imperial entanglements.
Well, that's the real trick, isn't it? And it's going to cost you something extra. 10,000, all in advance.
I just saw Solo: A Star Wars Story, and upon seeing it, I just couldn't help but think about all the complaints I heard about the movie. I read it was boring, lacked energy, handled their female characters wrong, that the film is simply a cash grab, and in the scope of the Star Wars universe, useless. It's this claim I hear the loudest amongst the chatter, that this movie is completely unnecessary and contributes nothing to the Star Wars universe. Even those who claim it as entertainment claim it's unnecessary. Critics claim they want something fresh and that Solo is nothing more than nostalgia that rethread old ground, giving it unnecessary detail. Upon hearing this, it caused me to question some things like, did we really need to know how he got his blaster or his last name or how he met Lando or anything else the movie threads? And ultimately, my answer is yes. But before I move forward, I get it. This film is wrapped in nostalgia. We do see all the parallels between this film and his situation with Jabba the Hutt. In the original trilogy, he owed Jabba the Hutt some money because he dumped some cargo when he ran into Imperial inspection, similar to his situation with Dryden Voss. The Maelstrom is a parallel to the asteroid field in The Empire Strikes Back. Chewie isn't good at holochess, which is reinforced when Beckett defeats him with the same moves R2-D2 used on him later on in the original trilogy. Furthermore, we see Chewie rip someone's arms off, like it was mentioned by Han in A New Hope. In both situations, Han managed to accomplish his goals and get the cash to pay back his debt. In Solo, it's to Dryden Voss, and in the original trilogy, it's to Jabba the Hutt. But in both situations, he decided to help out some rebel friends instead. We have the scenes where he pretends to be mad at Lando and the scenes when Han said he wanted Millennium Falcon fair and square. And of course we have the Han shot first scene. In the original version of A New Hope, before it was retitled The New Hope and simply known as Star Wars, when he was pressed into this situation, Han shot first. But when it was rebranded and remastered, there was a small change in the scene. This time Han and Greedo, this is Greedo by the way, shot at the same time. There was a big uproar, people claimed this change ruined their lives, and so in this film, guess what? The high-ups heard all the fuss, and without a doubt, Solo shoots first. Remember when he was interrupted here? Yeah, he's interrupted here too. And you remember this scene? It happens here too. And you know this line.
I got a bad feeling about this.
It's a Star Wars thing, so we can give it a pass. But since we're on the bandwagon, here it is.
I got a really good feeling about this.
To be honest, I really like that scene. His change in the phrase just makes sense for his character. But moving along, we also have this, and we have the move along scene.
We don't need to see his identification.
We don't need to see his identification.
These aren't the droids you're looking for.
These aren't the droids we're looking for.
He can go about his business.
You can go about your business.
Move along.
Move along. Move along. Right, move along. Move along.
Get it? Following orders, being under mind control? This is pretty clever. Now back to the point, I get it. Maybe it is playing a bit on the nose and therefore too safe. But the truth is, 1, that Star Wars fans are touchy, and 2, that Solo is the first to be accused of this, yet not the first to do it. The prequels, despite its place in the main storyline, does the same thing. The entire trilogy can be summed up here, yet we got 3 films and an entire series reliving these events, and never did the word unnecessary pop up. Even Rogue One can be found guilty of the same charge. We know exactly what's going to happen, yet we justify its existence. And although I enjoy Rogue One and will argue for its value, some of the things I heard from critics is maddening. For example, the reason Rogue One have worth is because everyone dies is nuts. Then there are rumors of a Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi movie, which everyone seems all too thrilled to see, as if it doesn't fall into the same category as Solo in terms of revisiting the past again. All these complaints about nostalgia leads me to believe people is looking for new characters, new stories, new ideas, and a new direction for the franchise. But then, with all the chatter surrounding The Last Jedi, we found out, not quite. So what is it that the fans want? Well, after filtering through all these voices I discovered, perhaps fans are less concerned with the characters themselves and more concerned with the ideals and characteristics attached to them. Let's take Luke for example. From what I heard, no one asked for all this character death. They simply wanted this character, but now, without growth or change, not unless it included him flying or throwing force lightning or something. This is why Han works in The Force Awakens, but is bashed by critics in Solo. In The Force Awakens, this guy is pretty much this guy, with little to no growth. Yes, he has history between these two films, but not really growth or change. As a result, he still embodies our ideals of him, and that's as a no-nonsense outlaw or smuggler who lives outside the rules and puts himself first. This is our first impression of him, and fans just can't seem to escape that image of him. Truth is, this is really who this character is, and Solo reinforced this side of him. He cloaks himself as a criminal, but underneath he has a good heart. Once we realize this, we see that although we know he's serious here, we also understand he's a sucker for good people, which makes his transition less of a major change, and more of him coming back to his center. Long story short, it destroys our own romanticized version of him, and ironically gives us a character who makes more sense. All of a sudden, him doing this doesn't come out the blue. It's actually who he is. Did we really need this movie? And my answer isn't a firm yes, because do we really need any of them? My answer is more of a why not, and even more so than that, it makes sense. Now let me explain. The entire Star Wars universe revolves around one family, the main family, and that's the Skywalker family, or rather the descendants of Anakin. That includes his children Luke and Leia, and now his grandson Ben. At the center of it all is Luke. He's our traditional hero. This is what makes Anakin, or rather Darth Vader, an even bigger deal than being a cool bad guy. This in itself justifies the creation of the prequel. It retraces the origins of the Skywalker family, therefore giving us a better perspective of who our hero is, just as Rogue One gave us a better perspective of the Death Star. Well, now things have changed. We have Rey at the center of everything, but it's Ben who is the latest in the Skywalker bloodline. But what's interesting is that he's not a Skywalker at all, but a Solo, and he's not a hero but rather the main villain. Despite being dead, Han's legacy is still in the Star Wars universe, and this in itself justifies his Solo film. Therefore, retracing the origin of the Solo bloodline and therefore giving us a better perspective of our villain. We like to compare Kylo Ren to Darth Vader for obvious reasons, for better or for worse. But what if I was to tell you he's more his father's son than his mother's? In the Solo film, Han is around the same age his son is in the current films. Now, despite seeming different due to privilege and status, the two are surprisingly similar. Like Skywalkers, Ben has a strong connection to the Force and is also passionate, which can fuel either the light or dark within him. We see this as Anakin struggled with the darkness and also in Luke. But what set Ben aside from the Skywalkers is the Solo in him, and that trait comes in his ability to have a particular vision of himself. Yes, Ben is Force sensitive, felt abandoned by his parents, betrayed by his uncle, and embraced by the dark side. But what is his real motivation? J.J. Abrams claims is this.
Kylo Ren idolizes Darth Vader, not Anakin Skywalker.
Okay.
He idolizes this, what Vader represents and what Vader was trying to do. And the idea that Vader didn't succeed, he was, if you look at it from Ren's point of view, he was seduced by the enemy and failed because of that seduction. And so the idea is that Ren wants to complete the thing that Vader started.
He wants to accomplish Darth Vader's vision. And what was his vision again?
I have brought peace, freedom, justice, and security to my new empire.
Your new empire?
So in a nutshell, Ben wants to rule the empire. his way, which he believes will be the just way. Ben don't only want this, he sees it, and will do whatever needs to be done so that he fits the narrative he created in his own head. He feels like he needs to be Vader and hold true to that path so that he can become the tragic hero he sees in his own mind. Han Solo is the same way. He sees himself as a pilot, the best in the galaxy, as a guy who grew up on the mean streets and therefore know how to maneuver with the worst of them. And he does everything in his power to make all this a reality. Han Solo wills himself into Flight Academy. He wills himself into the company of smugglers. These weren't events that just happened to him. He sought these things out and even put on a poker face to carry out these roles even when those closest to him knew it was all a front. At his core, Han Solo is a good guy, but he aspires to live a life of action outside the rules of society. As the best pilot in the universe. Even as an old man, he holds on to this vision of himself, a childhood dream he wills into existence. This makes him naive in a sense, but also good. At his core, Ben is the same. However, due to the circumstances around him, this naive childlike vision he has of himself doesn't make him good, but rather confused. He wants to be that evil that serves the greater good, but in his heart, he knows he is wrong. However, like a Solo, he wills it into existence anyway. That is what makes him capable of this, and this. Ben became Supreme Commander in much the same way Han became arguably one of the greatest pilots in the galaxy, and that's through sheer vision and will, as both forced themselves into those positions and situations. These contributions justify the existence of this film, as it gives us another important layer of who Kylo Ren is, as we examine a younger Han Solo. But I won't stop there. The last thing that really makes this story important is it's from nothing to something moral. No other Star Wars movie have really captured this element until now, which is ironic when we understand that the entire franchise is built around this concept. Yes, we have the idea of Anakin and Luke and Rey coming from desert planets, located nowhere. No hope of being more until they find themselves the chosen ones who will change the universe. These rag the riches stories would be great if they wasn't all privilege with amazing force potential. The Solo movies parallel to A New Hope in that Luke and Solo both have humble beginnings, except that only one of them really do. Luke's father is Space Jesus. He inherited that same power, and if that wasn't enough, he was put under the care of a legendary Jedi. Whether you want to call this destiny or privilege, Han can't claim either. Han really did come from nothing. A call to adventure didn't get him off his homeworld. It was his own will. Han went from being so insignificant he didn't even have a last name to call his own, to saving the galaxy, marrying a princess, and fulfilling his lifelong dream of becoming a pilot all on his own. It wasn't the Force or destiny, just a guy who had a vision. And that is perhaps the most inspiring story Star Wars have delivered yet.
You changed your hair.
Same jacket.
No, new jacket. I saw him. Leia, I saw her son. He was here. Listen to me, will you? I know every time you look at me, you're reminded of him.
You think I want to forget him? I want him back.
There's nothing more we could have done. There's too much Vader in him.
That's why I wanted him to train with Luke. I just never should have sent him away. That's when I lost him. That's when I lost you both.
We both had to deal with it in our own way. I went back to the only thing I was ever any good at.
We both did.
We lost our son. Forever.
No, it was Snoke. He seduced our son to the dark side. But we can still save him. Me. You.
If Luke couldn't reach him, how could I?
Luke is a Jedi. You're his father. There's still light in him, I know it.
Thought it was a bunch of mumbo-jumbo. A magical power holding together good and evil, the dark side and the light. The crazy thing is, it's true. The Force, the Jedi,